Hi, everybody. So just finishing up where we want to wrap up the Women in Sales webinar, and we are still going to send these out for folks who prefer to read them, but thought it might be a little bit easier, a little bit more tangible and accessible to just also wrap up with a quick video and get to some of those sales principles that we weren't able to finish within the time frame. So we want to talk about the cellophane principle. And the cellophane principle really just is about being honest and transparent with your audience or with your customer. You know, if you don't know a question or an answer to their question, then just tell them, especially as Katie mentioned, if they have a lot of C in their personality style, right? No one likes a BSer, but some styles are particularly offended or, by it especially. So if you don't know the answer to their question, let them know. If you've made a mistake, own up to it, right? We're all human at the end of the day. It's actually okay to make mistakes. But here's the really important thing to think about with the cellophane principle, which is how you follow through with the next part of your interaction will make or break their level of confidence that they have in you as a person, as a salesperson, with your business, your brand, so on and so forth. And so telling somebody, oh, I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, it's honest, it's transparent, it might not meet their needs in what they're looking for, right? And again, if we're thinking about our customer and putting our customer first, we want to follow through on that. It's a great question. I really want to make sure I give you a sound answer. And so I'm going to need some time to look into that. But is it okay if I get back to you tomorrow with an email? Or if I call you up and follow up next week and get you that info, is that a time frame that works well for you? Let them guide the timeline. They'll tell you when it's going to work, but you be willing and ready to provide that quality information to them. And then in terms of making a mistake, listen, people like knowing that they're doing business with somebody on the other end of the phone or the other end of the email who's actually a human being, okay? Computers make a lot of mistakes, but not as individuals, right? And so it's okay to be a little bit human. Again, it's how we recover or where we take our customer after we make a mistake, that's most important. Even with all my sales experience, we went into a sales meeting over Zoom at some point during the pandemic. And it was just a quick 15 minutes, the very first time that we had the opportunity to chat with this potential new client. And let me tell you guys, I showed up wholly unprepared and I bombed it. Like they were asking me questions about pricing. I was all over the map. I wasn't clear. It was like, even the little voice in my head was like, do you know what the hell you're doing? I'm not really sure I did in that moment. And so I followed up with an email to this person and I said, I wasn't so transparent as to say, listen, I came really ill prepared to our meeting. I think that part was evident, but I did say, I did not give you clear information. And I know that one of the things you have to now do after our call is to set up a time with your boss and to relay some of the information we talked about. And so I wanted to make sure I followed up with you with an email to answer those questions and clarify some of that information that was probably pretty confusing after our call. All right. So own the mistake, make it right for your customer, they will appreciate it in the long run. All right, the next principle is called the fishing principle. Sometimes as we think about sales, especially if we think historically sales or a lot of salesmen that we may have interacted with in the past, there's this idea of being a hunter. And a hunter has to be like quiet and you sort of sneak up on your prey and bam, you hit them before they even know what happened. As a customer, for me personally, that's not the kind of experience that I want to have. And I bet you for most of your customers, that's not the kind of experience they want either. And so the fishing principle talks about you as a salesperson. You don't have to be a hunter. Instead, how about you go out and fish? Go out and look for the people who are interested in what you have to offer, right? A really important part of this, if you do run your own business especially, is to set that target demographic. That is a huge part of the marketing and that feeds right directly into sales. Okay. But with anybody, if it's somebody you happen to meet through a friend of a friend or, again, at a trade show where there's lots of people who might be outside of your demographic, and that's okay too. But, it doesn't have to be this like aggressive, obnoxious thing. Just let them know what you have. Understand how it is that you solve a problem in their life. How do you add value with your service or your product? And the folks who are interested will stay. They'll stay and they'll have objections, and that's okay. Remember, objections are the way our customer communicates back to us that we haven't quite met their needs just yet, right? But it allows that fishing opportunity for just put out what you have and let those folks who are interested come to you. All right. And the Yabbit principle. Yeah. And we have Fred Flintstone here because, like, yabbit dabbit do. But the Yabbit principle is really about focusing our time and energy. Sometimes with customers, and again, different personalities are going to communicate differently, but we are looking for that yes. And we so desperately want that yes. We want to be able to close that sale, right? But remember, sales is a numbers game. And so getting to those no's are actually equally important, if not more so, right? They free up your time. You know where you're at with that customer and you can move on. Yeah, but they said that they were going to buy my product next month when they had a little bit more money. Okay, but now next month is here and they're still kind of waffling, or they're still not showing up, or they're not responding to your emails, Yeah, but they said that, they were going to put their, budget in their company's line item so that they could, use this service next year. Okay, but now we're into next year and now they have a different excuse, right? So we do have to get a little bit, you have to hone that skill between, is this an excuse, or is this, an excuse being labeled as an objection, but really they're not interested, right? And again, especially if you're self-employed or you're running a business, you have lots of hats to wear. And so really being ruthless with your time and which customers you're spending that time on and into is going to be really important for the longevity of your business. So, try and find your way. Don't spend time with the maybes. All right. Yes, you're not going to, quit somebody as a customer. Find an arm's length way that does not monopolize your time, where you can still maintain that relationship with them and they can stay connected with you as a business owner, as somebody who's selling a product. But don't chase your tail and spend your time trying to turn that maybe into a yes. Assume that maybe is going to be a no for now, and work your way to finding an enthusiastic yes, because I guarantee you they're out there. All right, so that's the Yabbit principle. All right, the last two are actually not our principles, but they are part of a book. Each of them have their own book, but still really, really important in terms of sales. So the first is the Aladdin principle. And there's a great book called The Aladdin Factor. And at the end of the day, when it comes to selling, 75+% is just about asking, right? It's communicating and asking. And sometimes we are afraid of that no. So we don't ask directly, and we kind of allow this, awkward, we are beating around the bush a little bit, right? So if you can get to the point where you're comfortable asking your customer direct questions, right, in a polite way, in communicating in a way that makes sense to them, where they still feel comfortable, right? And, a little bit of the Aladdin factor also speaks to assuming the sale, and you've probably heard that before. You need to assume the sale. And that's okay. And it's an important part of sales. Here's the thing to remember. When we say assume the sale, we don't mean you just met this customer, assume that they're going to close right then and there, okay? As we talked about, there are steps and stages to every customer, and it might not look exactly the same. But if we think about that sales relationship like dating, you're probably going to talk on the phone first, text, email, court a little bit before you get into some more intense discussions. Am I right? Same thing here with our customers. But what you can do is assume the sale. You can assume that when you have talked with them about this, they are now ready to move on to that next stage. So go into the conversation talking about what the expectations are for customers at this stage, what you can offer them that's now at the next level, so on and so forth, right? Assume that they're ready to transition to that next level of the sales journey. And if not, they will come back and tell you no, right? Or they will let you know in different ways that they're not ready for that, okay? But you want to ask questions that lead your customer to that yes. Again, if they're sitting on the maybe, we're going to deal with the Yabbit principle. We know how to handle that, but make it easy for your customer to say yes. And last but not least, we have the fish principle. And so this is, if you've heard of the Seattle Fish Market, this book wasn't written by the folks there, it was written about them. But this Seattle Fish Market, really transitioned their entire workplace culture probably just under a decade ago. And they have a couple main principles about work, and a huge customer focus for them is make their day, right? When you are, especially if you're B2B, but really anybody who's in sales, we are all bombarded with information and marketing day in and day out. And so if you have a customer, especially if you've reached the point where you're engaging with that customer one-on-one, whether it's via email, phone, in person, all of the above, you want to make sure that their experience with you is unlike their experience with other salespeople, right? You want them to know that when they get you on the phone, it's going to be a pleasant conversation. And maybe pleasant is a little bit of brief chit chat, and maybe pleasant is get in, talk about what you need to talk about, and get off the phone, right? It's what's comfortable for them. So you want to make their day. You really want to feed into what feels like a great experience for them. And also be grateful and excited that you get to speak to this person, right? At the end of the day, none of us make money if we don't have sales. And sometimes even saying the word make money or the phrase make money is like, oh, can we say that? Isn't that too rude? It's not rude. That's the way the world works. And if you run a business and you're in business for yourself, that is probably one of your goals, right? I don't know about you guys, but the bills come due at the end of the month in this house, and it takes money to pay them, right? So don't be afraid and don't be shy about money, but understand that we don't make money unless we have customers. So be excited and genuinely, grateful to have their time and their interactions. And when it's appropriate, give them genuine compliments and feedback. Something as simple as, listen, I know you're a very busy person, so I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today. Thanks so much. That goes a long way. And I guarantee you, many of the other salespeople that come across their path each day are not saying that to them. All right. So making their day is a really important factor to keep you at the top of mind for them and where they're going to buy that service or product. Again, thank you guys so much for being part of the webinar. We appreciate your time and energy to take the evening to be with us. And we hope that there's been some value here for you. Take care, guys. And all the best of luck and success as you go forward and sell. Thanks.